That shower running doesn't fool me, Laura.
Family Matters wasn't just another sitcom about laughter and love in the suburbs. It was a heartbeat of the late 80s and 90s. It was comfort TV that felt like home. But beneath the warm laugh track and familiar living room lies a truth most fans never figured out. What if I told you that the Winslow's perfect household was never meant to be the center of the story? What if one character who defined the show wasn't even supposed to exist beyond a single episode? And what if the smiles we saw on screen were often hiding exhaustion, conflict, and creative tension behind the scenes? Let's pull back the curtain and step into the real Chicago, not the fictional one, where actors fought for space producers, battled networks, and television history changed in ways no one saw coming. Because to truly understand Family Matters, you have to see the detail that changes how you see it forever. The year is 1989. America is still chasing the glow of The Cosby Show. ABC wants a series that captures the same family magic, but with a working-class realism. Out of that need comes Family Matters, a spin-off from Perfect Strangers centered on Harriet Winslow, the wise elevator operator audiences already loved. Jo Marie Payton steps into Harriet's shoes with a blend of authority and warmth. Reginald VelJohnson joins as Carl Winslow, a Chicago police officer balancing duty and domestic chaos. The concept feels simple but sincere, a family that laughs through the storm. But in those early weeks, the show's ratings struggle. The chemistry is there, yet something is missing. ABC executives are nervous. The show risks cancellation before it ever finds its rhythm. Then a new idea emerges. A one-off neighbor with thick glasses, high water pants, and a voice that cracks like an old record. His name is Steve Urkel. He is meant to appear once, just once, and then everything changes.
Well, if I did, nobody would ever let me in. All right, see ya.
When Jaleel White first walked onto the set as Steve Urkel, no one knew he was about to redefine the entire show. The writers had envisioned a small comic relief guest, but White's performance, awkward yet endearing, exaggerated yet human, hits like lightning. Within weeks, fan mail floods the studio. Suddenly, the spin-off of a spin-off finds its soul in a side character. The irony is unmistakable. A series about family unity is saved by an outsider. But success carries a strange price. Behind the smiles, Jo Marie Payton begins to feel the shift. The show that once centered on Harriet and her family becomes the Urkel Show. Reginald VelJohnson watches as scripts lean more toward slapstick science and less toward the quiet, grounded stories of middle-class life. White becomes a national star, but the spotlight burns hot. He is a teenager carrying the weight of an entire network schedule. Directors rewrite scripts overnight to feature more of his inventions, his catchphrases, his chaos, and beneath his perfect comic timing, he's quietly overwhelmed. It's the paradox that defines Family Matters. A show built on family values begins to fracture from within. ABC's fateful call comes mid-season. The network demands more Urkel, more gadgets, more exaggerated comedy, less talk about police work, parenting, or real-world issues. It's not just a creative pivot, it's a total transformation. The writer's room, once grounded in realism, now leans into surrealism. Urkel clones himself. He builds time machines. He transforms into suave alter egos like Stefan Urkel. The suburban sitcom becomes a science fiction laboratory. Some cast members embrace the shift. It's fun, it's imaginative, but others feel alienated. They signed on for a family ensemble, not a one-man show. Jo Marie Payton famously pushes back, arguing that the Winslows' humanity is slipping away. Yet ratings keep climbing. Families across America love Steve Urkel's chaos. Kids quote him in schoolyards. Toy companies flood shelves with dolls and cereal boxes. And just like that, the network's decision to amplify a single guest star reshapes the show's DNA and its destiny. But the more the show soars, the heavier the cost behind the scenes. By season 5, exhaustion sets in. Long shooting hours, complex stunt setups, and special effects turn a sitcom into a technical marathon.
Body slams a phone down like Laura.
Jaleel White, still barely in his 20s, finds himself trapped between fandom and fatigue. He later admits in interviews that the Urkel persona was both a blessing and a cage. Every laugh from the audience means another day buried under suspenders and oversized glasses. Every success isolates him further from being seen as anything else. Joe Marie Payton's frustration deepens. Scripts that once explored Harriet's work-life balance now orbit entirely around Steve. Tensions quietly simmer. Crew members recall moments when laughter felt forced, a professional smile stretched thin by overwork. Even Reginald VelJohnson, the ever-steady father figure, confides to friends that balancing tone is becoming impossible. One week Carl is in a heartfelt family drama, the next he's caught in a cartoonish mishap with Urkel's inventions. It's a creative paradox. The show's genius also becomes its undoing. Watch any early episode closely, and you'll notice something subtle. Before Steve Urkel dominates the frame, Family Matters is about rhythm and restraint. The jokes land because they emerge from truth, not chaos. Look closer at the living room scenes. The set design mirrors a working-class Chicago family's modest reality. Worn furniture, dim lighting, everyday clutter. When Urkel enters, that environment transforms visually and emotionally. The camera angles shift, the lighting brightens, and the soundscape grows louder. That visual evolution tells its own story. The Winslows' once grounded world slowly giving way to fantasy. Most fans remember the slapstick, but few notice how the cinematography changes to match. The shift in tone. And if you rewatch the early seasons, you can trace that shift frame by frame, from realism to surrealism. It's not just writing, it's filmmaking reacting to fame. Because Family Matters didn't just evolve, it visually surrendered to the phenomenon it created. Every successful show eventually hits a crossroads. For Family Matters, that moment arrives when Joe Marie Payton decides she can't stay silent anymore. She confronts producers, demanding that the Winslows reclaim their space. Harriet, she insists, was never meant to be a background character in her own home. Her outspokenness doesn't go unnoticed. Meetings grow tense.
All I ask is for Laura's hand in marriage.
Scripts are rewritten without consultation. By the late seasons, Payton feels creatively sidelined. She eventually leaves mid-series, and another actress, Judy Ann Elder, takes over the role of Harriet Winslow. Fans notice immediately. The warmth changes. The chemistry feels different. The family that once felt real now feels like performance. Behind the scenes, ABC and the production team remain focused on keeping Urkel front and center. Ratings justify their decisions, but internally the sense of unity is gone. Even Jaleel White feels the fracture. In later interviews, he admits the tension was painful. He respected his co-stars deeply, but could feel the divide growing. The same divide that mirrored the on-screen world splitting between family and farce. It's the conflict every long-running show fears: success versus soul. Here's where the story turns poetic. A show built around family ends up torn apart by the very character meant to bring it joy. But life has a way of mirroring fiction. Years later, when the cast reunites for retrospectives, the warmth returns. The same people who once clashed over screen time now speak with tenderness about their shared journey. The irony deepens when you consider how Urkel, the awkward outsider desperate to belong, becomes the metaphor for the show itself. Family Matters was the underdog of Friday nights, competing against bigger-budget sitcoms and still finding its audience through persistence and heart. And though the show's internal struggles nearly broke it, that struggle is exactly what made it human. The cast, like the Winslows, learned to endure imperfection together. Even Jaleel White, reflecting as an adult, admits he never fully understood the weight of his fame as a child. He calls the show both his greatest gift and his greatest test. Now here's where it gets complicated, because the story doesn't end with the final episode. When Family Matters shifts networks to CBS in 1997, many predict its decline. The tone is uneven, the original energy fading, but something surprising happens. Audiences follow anyway. The reason isn't just nostalgia, it's loyalty. Families who grew up watching the Winslows refuse to let them go. Even as ratings dip, the show leaves behind an enormous cultural imprint. Catchphrases like, "Did I do that?" become part of American vernacular. School kids dress as Urkel for Halloween. Talk shows replay his dance moves. But the real breakthrough comes years after the finale. As streaming services revive classic sitcoms, Family Matters finds a new audience. Young viewers who weren't even alive in the 90s discover it. and they fall in love all over again. In an era of reboots and quick fame, its sincerity feels radical. And suddenly, the story that almost got canceled becomes timeless again.
I hate the sound of flushing while I'm eating. Don't you, my pet?
The ripple effect of Family Matters stretches far beyond nostalgia. It redefined what a predominantly black sitcom could achieve. Before it, networks rarely believed that family comedies featuring black leads could anchor primetime. After it, shows like The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and My Wife and Kids stood on the foundation it built. It also proved that television characters could transcend their shows entirely. Urkel became a pop culture archetype, the awkward genius whose heart outshines his clumsiness. Even today, writers reference him when crafting similar roles across genres, and the Winslow's family dynamic inspired countless imitators. From grounded lessons to heartfelt endings, their structure became the blueprint for the 90s sitcom. But perhaps the most powerful ripple is emotional. For millions of viewers, Family Matters wasn't just entertainment, it was reflection, a reminder that love even in chaos holds families together. Now, more than 3 decades later, that message still lands. To understand why Family Matters still lives in hearts across generations, you have to look past the jokes and the glasses and the slapstick science. At its core, the show was never about inventions or pratfalls. It was about connection, about the messiness of belonging, about love that holds firm even when the world spins out of control. The Winslows represented something rare on television, a working-class black family portrayed not through struggle alone, but through pride and everyday joy. They laughed through bills and heartbreak. They argued and made up. They faced life's absurdities with humor and humility. In a time when TV often flattened identity into stereotypes, Family Matters insisted on complexity. What made it endure was not perfection, but imperfection. The family fought. They stumbled. They forgave. The writing carried lessons, but never sermons. It invited viewers to find themselves in that Chicago living room, whether they looked like the Winslows or not. And though Urkel became the symbol of the show, its real heart never left that core idea. That being different does not mean being alone. The deeper truth is that Family Matters mirrored America's growing pains. The late 80s and early 90s were turbulent with shifting cultural lines. Representation on screen was evolving yet fragile. Family Matters bridged that divide. It was hopeful without being naive. It let humor coexist with honesty. Decades later, when reruns air or episodes stream, that same warmth pulls audiences back. People don't rewatch for nostalgia alone. They rewatch because it still feels like home. And that home carries one unshakable message, that even when everything changes, love remains the anchor. But there's one more twist to this legacy, one that speaks not to fiction, but to the people behind it. Years after the final curtain, Jaleel White walks back into the Family Matters universe, not as a character, but as a man ready to face what the fame left behind. For years, he avoided the suspenders, the catchphrases, the memories that trapped him between laughter and loss. But time softens pain. In interviews, he speaks with newfound grace about his castmates. He remembers Reginald VelJohnson not just as a co-star, but as a mentor who taught him dignity amid pressure. He recalls Jo Marie Payton's strength and how her fight for authenticity taught him to value integrity over applause. He smiles as he admits that back then, he didn't fully understand her frustration. He was young. He only saw the lights, not the cost behind them. When the cast gathers years later for reunion specials, something beautiful happens. The tension that once divided them dissolves into gratitude. They laugh about the absurd storylines. They reminisce about the live audience roars. They share hugs that speak louder than words. The truth is that the real family was never fictional. It lived in that bond, forged through exhaustion, laughter, and years of shared history. Fans watching these reunions notice something deeper. There is no bitterness in their eyes, only peace. Jo Marie Payton even admits she left the show to protect her own spirit, but that she never stopped loving the people who made it with her. Reginald VelJohnson reflects on how the Winslows reminded viewers of simple virtues: respect, patience, forgiveness. And Jaleel White finally feels free to embrace the character who both defined and confined him. That healing matters, Because behind every sitcom, there are human beings learning how to carry joy and pain at once. And in their reunion lies the lesson that Family Matters always tried to teach, that healing is just another form of family. Few shows manage to plant themselves so deeply in the culture that they become invisible, part of the air people breathe. Family Matters achieved that without loud fanfare or blockbuster budgets. Its influence hides in countless echoes across modern television. Think of every nerdy genius who became the unexpected hero after being underestimated. Think of every sitcom that dared to mix heart with absurdity. Think of every storyline that balanced slapstick with sincerity.
It's not necessary, Steve.
Oh, yes, it is. That's where I always keep my wallet.
Each carries a spark from Family Matters. Writers and actors who grew up watching the show often credit it as their first glimpse of themselves on screen. It showed them that being smart, awkward, or misunderstood could still be heroic. It gave them permission for new kinds of stories to exist. Even the industry itself learned a lesson. Studios realized that representation sells not because it panders, but because it resonates. Audiences saw their lives reflected and responded with loyalty that outlasted trends. When people today rewatch the show, they're often struck by how modern it feels. Its themes, inclusion, empathy, accountability, remain urgent. The jokes may belong to another era, but the heart beats with timeless rhythm. That invisible impact keeps rippling through pop culture, shaping characters, scripts, and even viewer expectations decades later. And yet beyond influence lies something even more profound: memory. Ask anyone who grew up with Family Matters, and they can tell you exactly where they were when they first heard Steve Urkel's squeaky voice break the silence of the Winslow living room. They remember the laughter that followed, the comfort of routine Friday nights, the ritual of sitting down with family to watch a family on screen. Those memories do not fade. They become part of people's emotional architecture. They mark a time when entertainment felt safe yet meaningful, when humor and heart lived side by side. Parents introduced their kids to the reruns. Kids grew up and introduced theirs. The show became generational glue, a shared language that says family isn't perfect, but it's worth fighting for. It also became a time capsule of values: hard work, respect, forgiveness, faith in one another. Each episode offered a gentle reminder that decency still matters. In a world that moves faster every year, Family Matters remains a pause button, a chance to breathe and remember simpler truths. That's why it endures. Not because it was flawless, but because it was familiar. It felt like your aunt, your brother, your neighbor, your own living room. It reminded viewers that joy can exist right next to frustration, that laughter can be a form of resilience, and that even the most chaotic family still finds its rhythm. Those memories are not just nostalgia, they are emotional inheritance. But nostalgia without honesty is only half the story. To truly honor what the cast endured, you must also face the cost behind the glow. Television magic often hides the exhaustion it takes to maintain it. The actors carried immense pressure. Jaleel White bore the burden of fame before adulthood. Jo Marie Payton carried the frustration of being unheard in a male-dominated production hierarchy. Reginald VelJohnson carried the responsibility of representing dignity in uniform during an era when public trust in authority was complex. Every laugh you heard had a story behind it. Every episode was built on discipline, perseverance, and compromise. That awareness doesn't diminish the show's beauty, it deepens it. Because Family Matters thrived not because it was easy, but because its cast refused to quit. They kept showing up. They kept believing in the message. They kept loving each other through friction. The truth behind every enduring piece of art is labor, and Family Matters is living proof that endurance itself can become art. When viewers watch reruns, they may never sense the long nights or tense meetings that shaped each scene. But those unseen efforts are the reason it still feels alive today. The cost was real, but so was the love. In the long story of television, Family Matters stands as a testament to heart over hype. It did not rely on shock value or cynicism. It built its world on kindness. Its legacy stretches beyond the characters or even the decade. It's in the way audiences learned to laugh without cruelty. It's in the way young viewers saw a Black family thriving without stereotype. It's in the way people began to believe that sincerity could still win in an industry chasing spectacle. When the show finally ended in 1998, it left behind more than reruns. It left behind a philosophy that no matter how absurd life becomes, family, chosen or biological, remains the constant. Actors move on, studios change, audiences grow older. But that truth stays. Family Matters proved that storytelling built on compassion never truly fades. It simply changes form, finding new life with every generation that needs it again. And in a time when the world feels divided, the Winslow's laughter still bridges that gap. So what do the cast revelations truly teach us? That behind the laughter there was courage, behind the tension there was care, behind the fame there was humanity. Family Matters was not just a show about love, it was an experiment in it. It tested what happens when art meets expectation, when family meets fame, and when individuals must protect their integrity within a system that doesn't always listen. Its endurance proves that the heart always finds a way to speak even when buried under catchphrases and ratings battles. The fans who revisit it today find comfort not only in nostalgia, but in truth, because the Winslow's struggles mirror our own. Trying to stay kind in a chaotic world, trying to hold on to joy in the face of fatigue, trying to grow without losing ourselves. That is why the show still matters. It reminds us that every laugh carries history, every performance carries weight, and every family carries stories unseen by outsiders. So when you hear that laugh track echo or that voice crack once more, remember this. You are not just watching a sitcom. You are witnessing a story about endurance, about forgiveness, about finding balance between chaos and care. That is the detail most fans never figured out. If you grew up with Family Matters, watch it again with fresh eyes. Look beyond the glasses and the gadgets and see the people who gave their hearts to make it real. Their story is still unfolding every time a new viewer discovers it. Which moment from the show changed how you saw family? Share it below and keep the conversation alive. Because in the end, Family Matters was never only about television, it was about all of us.